Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Rumcast. Welcome back to the Rumcast for 2026, actually. And as always, this is the podcast that talks all things rum-related with the people who love and shape it. Back in the booth now with me is Will Hookinga. My name is John Gulla. You know us as the tandem, you might say, that talks about rum in very many different ways. And I'm excited because, you know, today it's our first episode now of 2026. And it's our predictions episode where we get to look back at what we thought about 2025 was going to happen and talk about what's going to happen this year.
Yes, I'm eager to get to those. But before we do, you're wearing your Miami shirt. We're recording this on Sunday, January 18th, which is you've got the Miami mug too, the hat, the whole set.
Heck yeah. How can I not?
So tomorrow, Miami going up against Indiana in the college football national championship. I wanted to see, do you want to record a quick reaction for either outcome? What is the John Gulla if they win statement, and what is the John Gulla if they lose statement? Do you have anything for us?
You know, Will, I only have one statement because we are not losing this game.
Oh, calling the shot.
We are not losing this game. I was going to tie this into something later, but I'm going to pull this up a little bit because, you know, we can't ignore the fact, as you said, this is, you know, Sunday, and tomorrow, my alma mater, my city, my backyard, my lifelong allegiance. I was 4 years old going to the Orange Bowl watching this team play. I was there for the infamous Wide Right Part 2 game in 1992. I was here for all 5 of our previous championships. I witnessed the greats come through this special place, and it carries a big part of me, and I am part of the tradition. So tomorrow, when we face off against the Indiana Hoosiers, who are undefeated, mind you. This is no pushover team, right?
They're favored.
There's a story.
They're favored in the team.
Yes.
In the game.
I know, and this is not a football podcast, so we're not going to dwell on this, okay? But I have to represent here and say, just like people said, we could not go into Texas A&M and College Station and win there. We did. And they said we had no shot at Ohio State. They said we would lose that game. We did not.
Nobody believed in you.
They said the firepower of Ole Miss was too much for us, Will. And it was not. And just like all of those times, I think we win this game outright in Miami by the score of 27-20.
Wow, calling the score too. I mean, this is the predictions episode, so I mean, this is, you know, it fits in. We're not a football podcast, as you said, but why not throw in a quick, prediction that's near and dear to your heart?
Yeah. I'm excited about it. It's a huge deal for the city, honestly. I've been, working a lot with my day job also, and we've been doing a lot of stuff in preparation for it because it's here in Miami, and that's a big deal. It did happen. It did happen twice before, actually, in the Orange Bowl, so it's not unprecedented. It was 91 and 87, I think, were the two. I heard that was tens of thousands of people in the street after we won that. Wow. So it would be a really cool thing to see that resurrected for, my kids, for all of the people who have these last 25 years not really seen the University of Miami be as successful as we once were in football. Right. So I'm excited that they've already just got here. And I will say that I do think we're going to win as I predicted. But if we don't, I'm still very proud of the team.
Okay. Got that in there at the end. But
yeah.
All right. Well, we'll all be Miami Hurricanes tomorrow. We'll be with you.
Thank you, Will. You, me, and maybe everybody here in Miami-Dade County. Everybody else, I think, is on Indiana's side.
Indiana's a great story, I will say. Yeah. They did defeat embarrassingly defeat my Alabama Crimson Tide, but that's okay because I hate the coach and I hope he gets fired anyway. So anyway, that's all the college football talk we'll cram into this episode. We've got, we're calling this the predictions episode going into this year. I guess this is our fifth or... Is it probably our fifth, maybe sixth time doing this? And I wanted to, play with the format a little bit because it's interesting making predictions on a 12-month schedule in the rum world, because I feel like the rum world doesn't always move at a quick enough rate to warrant having making 3 different predictions every single year. So I threw out the idea of we can make some predictions, but what if we also just, what are some questions we have about rum going into this year? What's something that's worth talking about, that we'll be kind of watching for throughout the year, and just good prompts for discussion. So we're going to do some predictions, we're going to do some questions, but the first thing we need to do is quickly run through our predictions from last year and decide, give ourselves, I think, a pass-fail on these, John. I think that's the way to grade these. So should we start with your predictions or mine? What do you want to do?
I can start with one of mine to start with, and then we can bounce back and forth.
Right. Let's go.
All right. So my first one from last year was a de-emphasization of minimum age statements on rum products from reputable producers and bottlers. And interestingly, we were talking a little bit about we didn't have anything kind of quantitative with this.
Yeah.
And that's not surprising for me. I tend to lean away from quantitative anyways. And you hold me to the fire usually. But I don't think we had anything specific on this one. So I was talking it through with my, kind of looking into it. We did have a lot of releases in 2025 that didn't have minimum age statements on it.
That's
now,
true.
I know that every year has that, right? So the difficult part of giving credit here is going to be, well, who's going to do the math on like how many releases were there with minimum age statements and how many weren't? But I will say we had Banter. We had the Pico Canoa blend. We had the Reunion Traditionale from Holmes Key. We had Black Tot Solera. We had the PM Spirits Prestige LaDroit. We had Hamden 1753 and the Maverick. And I don't think... unless I'm missing a piece there, I don't think any of those really had a minimum age statement on it. And maybe there were some others, too, that I'm leaving out. So I kind of feel like it's a difficult one to give me credit for here, but I also don't feel like I totally failed. So
yeah, I wouldn't say you. It's not necessarily. I guess we said pass or fail. I guess it's a pass. I think if I'm playing devil's advocate, I would say I don't know that it was a material change in like the volume of releases like that over the past year, but it's just kind of a vibes based thing to me. I don't feel like reflecting on the year, I'm like, oh wow, this was just everywhere.
The year where minimum age statements just dropped off the earth. Yeah. I agree with you. I do think though, like you just said in the intro, that a 12-month basis is hard. So I think what we're going to see is that the trend will continue with de-emphasizing minimum age statements. And that I think we could look back and this range of time, I'm not going to say 2025, the 12 months specifically, but this range of time is where we saw that trend kind of was starting, and it'll continue over the next few years.
Yeah. Well, the mantra on the predictions grading portion of the episode is never wrong, just early.
Exactly. I think I claim that for everyone.
Yeah, never wrong, just early. All right. So the first one I'll bring up that I threw out there was at least 5 existing rum brands that aren't currently available in the U.S. will become available in the U.S. or will hear that it's going to happen. So this, like, things that wouldn't be counted in this would be like brand new producers coming out. Like we just did a bonus episode about the new American independent bottler Spinnaker rum and tasting through their inaugural releases. That doesn't count here because that brand didn't previously exist. So this is like something that's established coming to the US for the first time.
Right.
And John, I think that I can count 5 that meet this criteria. So I'm going to throw them out there. MOBA, Holmes Key, bringing in the actual official MOBA bottles.
Yeah.
Colors of Rum, independent bottler from Europe, coming into the U.S. with a lot of releases in 2025 for the first time.
Yeah, that's a little fuzzy because I remember tasting some here in November of 2024. But okay, I'm with you.
Okay, a little fuzzy.
Okay.
Bedford Park.
Yeah, that's for sure. Right.
Matuga, the Scottish producer, now available in the U.S.
Give you that
and then
one.
The last one that came to mind is one that's not here yet, but we have heard it's going to happen, which is the European independent bottler Nobilis coming in. The funny thing is that like 4 out of the 5 I just listed are all being brought in thanks to our friends at Raising Glasses. So it's just like...
They tried their best to make you right, Will.
Yeah, I think that's what's been the driving force behind all this. But I'm guessing there's probably some that I'm also just forgetting about, or just didn't notice, or it flew under the radar in some capacity. So I think I'm gonna give myself a pass for this one. But looking at it, I was also kind of like, maybe I wasn't bold enough by only saying 5. That number might have been a little low, but
Yeah.
I still think it's a pass.
Well, again, it's kind of like, well, we didn't do any research on like, well, how many were new, in 2024 or
True.
2023, and whether or not that was a marked difference in this year, 2025, versus those other years. But even lacking that, I still feel like you're owed some credit for it. You took the bold step. Well, we'll say a step
Semi-bold.
to saying, hey, 5 is the number, and so I think even with a little bit of fuzziness on colors of rum, you're still there at like 4. And to your point of, there's probably others that we didn't think of that we can find. I'm going to give you a pass as well.
All right. What was your second one?
My second rum, yeah. I haven't even had any rum today. My second one here is American Continental Rum takes a giant leap forward in 2025.
Giant leap forward. This was part of your Apollo 11 theme for your set of predictions last year.
Always have to have a theme. And yeah, and I think I even mentioned it then as I was trying to force this a little bit into the theme by saying giant leap, but basically trying to say that there was a marked or leap forward for American rum in some way. I'm looking at it now retrospectively. I can point to some things. And then let's see where we end up here. Yeah. So you had the releases from mainland rum come out and do well. So that I think was a pretty interesting one. An IB that is solely doing, by the way, continental, right? Because we said it had to be continental American rum, and they're doing continental American rums. And then you had, Privateer did a new 9-year product, which is a pretty high mark for years for American rum, right, in terms of aging. So that was interesting and fun to see. Will, you selected a Cherami rum as one of your best of the year. Right?
It was an honorable mention. Yes,
was it? Wait, I think I needed to select it then because I just got a bottle of it. I mean, it was
good. The Anna's Cask Select blend was amazing. So
yeah,
sure, yeah.
So there was that. American Cane is coming together. I still think we're in the incipient stages of what they're doing. They did Banter, which is obviously not an American rum, but they are bringing that stuff together, and I think we're going to keep seeing big things from them. So, there's some things here in the American rum market that I feel
irons in
like,
the fire.
Yes, it is coalescing in the crucible there, and things are starting to kind of take shape and form into something. So, a giant leap? Probably not. I don't think we can go there. Some sort of a leap, a hop, a skip, a jump. I feel
this
like
should have been this should have been the one small step. I think.
Yeah, maybe that's what.
Then you would have been
done.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
I'll give you credit that some interesting things did happen. Finally seeing an American independent bottler focused on American rums, I think is something. It's been like an idea that I've talked about with a lot of people over the years, and someone finally did it. So that is interesting. It'll be interesting to see what they continue coming out with. And as you were saying, like higher age statements, I think at least their Louisiana release, I believe, was 10 years. You don't see that very much.
No.
So. All right. So for my second one, this was my one downer prediction of last year, which was that tariffs will impact rum for rum enthusiasts much more this time than they did last time. This is an interesting one. My perception of this is yes, but I think that is somewhat colored by our experience releasing Rumcast Reserve rums and being charged tariffs for them, and because of that, having to bump up the price slightly. I don't know that I had the experience of like walking the rum aisles and being like, oh my god, like this is everything is insanely priced. But I do think that prices did go up. I do think that projects were delayed. Sourcing took longer. We didn't see some stuff that we may have seen had the tariffs not been there. So I definitely think they did impact rum enthusiasts, but not necessarily in a way that like everybody felt. Possibly is kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that we had any kind of a crystallizing moment where everybody just went, "What the fuck? Oh god!" Right? And I'd still give you some partial credit because I do feel like there was something there, and it could be, like you said, a little bit personal, but also seeing things in the rum market and hearing from people and things. I think it's a lagging indicator, right?
Yeah.
So that's part of the issue
Mm-hmm.
is you're these things can kind of stack over time,
Yep.
but because also the industry for rum is a little bit of a lagging indicator with regards to, like we talk about, you've got things laid in barrels from
Yep.
10 years ago or
Yep.
whatever amount of time, and so those kind of things are maybe already set a little bit, and so I think we will see more of a pronounced effect if it continues.
Yeah. I agree with you there. All right, let's wrap it up. You've got one more prediction from 2020 or 2025.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
What's your last one? I'll do my last one.
All right, my last one should be pretty quick here. I said one piece of mainstream media or well-known event will feature
Oh
a
yeah.
classic rum, and I don't think it
This
happens.
was like Rum's big pop culture moment. Is you were
Yes,
predicting
yes,
something, a rum cocktail, a mention in a movie, something like that would happen
yeah.
to give Rum a moment.
I know this was a big swing, and we've talked about doing big swings here before just to make it interesting and fun. And I felt like there was just somehow going to be some moment that might have happened in that year
Yeah.
that somebody recognized rum for some way that kind of hit into the mainstream, and I don't think it happened. Johnny Depp's new rum that's coming out. Will Johnny
I
Depp's new
forget what
rum?
it's called. Yeah.
Four hearts, three hearts, something like
Three
that. I can't
Hearts. I think
remember.
that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure it's
But
gonna be awesome.
yeah, yeah. So I feel comfortable saying I missed on this one.
Okay. Yeah. I'll agree with you there. I'm I'm still riding high from getting a like 2 second glimpse of a bottle of Foursquare ECS in like I think the second to last episode of Succession from a few years ago.
Yes.
If you like pause it at the right time, you could see
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
bottles of Foursquare ECS because they go to Barbados for part of the episode. Okay, I'll close things out with our previous year's predictions. My last one was with the end of the Foursquare vintage releases, we'll see an expansion of things from brands like Dourley's and perhaps even the first Foursquare blend featuring cane juice rum. I referenced how the last time we had Richard Steele on the podcast, he said, they've had this cane juice program for a little while now. They've laid down some barrels of their cane juice distillate, and they started doing it in 2016. He said probably when it's about 10 years old, they'll start doing something with it. And that's actually this year that it's going to be 10 years old. I can safely say I can't call this a pass. I kind of like anecdotally feel like Dourley's 14 availability went up, but I think that's just kind of colored by my own local market. I just see it more here now. But it does kind of make logical sense that if the vintages are going away and the ECS line itself is going
Yeah.
away, which we know now, that having more of that long aged 14-year-old rum to put into stuff like that might happen, and maybe it's more available. But I don't really have any evidence that happened, and I know for sure we didn't see any of blends with cane juice in them from Foursquare this year. So I'll have to say fail, but again, I'm gonna invoke the mantra never wrong, just early. I think it's
Yeah.
happening, so
I agree.
I'm just gonna like roll that one over. It's a rollover prediction for
Right?
2026.
Damn,
The
we should
cane
allow
juice-
ourselves
the cane
a
juice stuff is coming. A
yes,
rollover.
a
Yeah.
rollover prediction from now on. That will be the format.
All right. All right. Those are our predictions from last year. How do we want to get started on predictions for 2026? Like I said, I've got some questions. I've got at least one prediction. I know you've got some predictions, some questions. You want to get us started? You want me to get us started?
Yeah, I think. Well, I started the previous ones of going over, so why don't you start? And I know you mentioned it already, but we're broadening our horizon a little bit this year by, there's sometimes there's predictions, but you force yourself into a weird place when you're making a prediction. And so I think the idea that you and I discussed was, well, we don't necessarily always want to do that. Sometimes I think you can, right? And you
Yeah.
feel comfortable with it. Other times it's more of a question of something you see and then we can discuss through. And that's where, so I have two, I think, questions and two predictions.
Okay. That's similar to me.
Okay.
I'll start with a question because it's a perfect segue from what we just discussed, which
Okay.
is the question is, can anything fill the Foursquare ECS Void. And just to give people background, I mentioned Foursquare Exceptional Cask Selection Series going away. That's kind of people reading between the lines because we have seen TTB label approvals for 2 more ECS releases. The first that we saw is called Penultimus. Penultimate, of course, meaning second to last. And then we saw one come through shortly after that called, like, I think when people saw that, they were already on edge. Like, oh, what?
Right.
Is this close to the end? And then the next one that came through is called Epilogue. So people are reading into that the Foursquare ECS series is going to be no more. And so my question is, if we think for a second about what the ECS is and kind of like the type of rum it puts into the market at a fairly regular basis. Like there's basically always one of these bottles you can buy at this point, unless you live somewhere that's just a rum desert and doesn't have good selections. Right. But what we're looking at is long-aged, tropically aged, cask strength / high proof rums, all with varied aging, varied blends. And here's one of the key things is thousands of bottles per release. So I think typically the ECS releases range from anywhere around like 8,000 bottles to even as many as like around 30,000 for some of the vintages.
Yep.
And then we'll say like average price in recent years, probably around 150. I know sometimes they get more than that. But if you just factor in like historically, they haven't always been that expensive. The price has kind of scaled up as they've gone up in age. Yep. We've seen some as old as 18 years recently. Penultimus, I believe, says 15 and Epilogue says 19.
19, yeah.
Yeah, which that would make it the oldest ever. So you're looking like that type of rum released at that scale. When you think about it, coming directly from a producer, I don't know that there's really anyone else doing anything similar to it. And so it's almost like, I feel like to an extent, the rum enthusiast community has kind of taken them for granted in recent years. It's, we talk about this all the time, like, oh, they're too similar, that kind of thing. But like,
you get a few each year.
Yeah, it's great rum. It's consistently available. There are different elements to it. So I'm just kind of like, if we don't have this, like, is there anything that can come close to like filling that void, do you think? Does anything come to mind for you? Are there any producers that you think could step up and do something in a similar vein? I've got kind of a list of candidates, but I'm curious if anything comes to mind for you.
Yeah, I mean, my first reaction is no.
Yeah.
And let me tell you why, and then I'm interested to hear. I don't think there is a producer that I can think of that is close enough in what I will say, like loosely as profile for a rum profile, and big enough and quality enough to release a similar type of thing that would fill the same hole. Otherwise, number one, I think they would have already done it. And, I think also, I mean, Richard has to be cooking something up, right? So let me hold on to that and let you talk a little bit more first. But that's my only other thought here, is that I don't think he would be willingly ending this without having some sort of ace in the hole for doing something else. It just seems like, unless maybe he was really forced to, and that would be the question I would ask him, is like, is this being forced upon you in a sense of like, hey, stock levels and what you have, and you're not able to sustain it in a meaningful way at this point, and you want to take the remaining stock that you have and do something different with it, or if it's just a shift in focus, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, what are your thoughts in terms of other brands and things that you were thinking of?
So, I'll say I agree with you that I don't think it's just like, Foursquare flipping a switch on this without plans to do something else. And I'm not saying they'll do a one-to-one direct replacement of it, but I would just assume that it's not just going to be like a void of any releases from them. Right. In fact, I think maybe the type of stuff that I predicted last year, maybe this is the year for it, because this will be, 10 years for some of that cane juice stuff. I don't know. But I thought it was a fun thought exercise to just be like, who out there could do something kind of like, or like, what would it look like if someone did something similar? The candidates that came to mind, if I was just thinking of like, who has the stock to do this and just like the resources, because it kind of rules out like if you think about it, the rums are obviously very different, but the one thing in recent years that's reminded me a little bit of ECS is, strangely enough, Alambique Serrano, in having all these, and they definitely like the volume of blends. It's like they have more different things coming out in smaller quantities, whereas the ECS is more about larger quantities of fewer different things, you know. But just kind of that feeling of like seeing the new ones, like the Vita Nativa series, for example. It's like seeing these pop up and wanting to try the different ones. Just like the excitement around it created reminded me a little bit, but completely different rum. The scale is way smaller, so I wouldn't really
branding even.
It's just I wouldn't really compare the two. Then I was like, well, what about someone like Mount Gay, for example? They definitely have the stock. They definitely have the stock to do it. However, it just, if you look at like the type of releases they do, I don't think releasing stuff in that price point really seems to be part of their strategy. When they do special stuff, it's usually
250 and up usually.
250, 3, 4 sometimes. So I don't see them doing that. I also just think in general, like when you have a distillery brand that's owned by like one of the larger kind of spirits conglomerates, like their Remy Cointreau, Appleton, I thought of, who's owned by Campari. I just don't see a brand like that doing something like this. I feel like you kind of you need like someone who's sort of like Richard is like the owner, driving this. I know there's other people at Foursquare that are probably part of these making these decisions too, but I feel like you need that kind of like tighter decision making around to really drive something like this.
I agree with it.
Chairman's Reserve. The other thing I would say kind of reminds me of ECS is the master selection, although they tend to do a bunch of those, and they tend to be like a lot of picks and things like
regional.
that. Yeah, stuff like that. So like I think like if they kind of shifted their strategy, they could maybe do something similar. Hampton or Worthy Park, not sure that they really have the stock to do it on the scale of Foursquare, and that might be Chairman's as well. I'm not fresh on their quantities. And then the last I thought of was El Dorado, which I actually feel like they have all the right ingredients to do something like that if they wanted to. And they've done some catering to the rum enthusiast community over the years. The rare collection, the single marks we talked about in our episode about Guyana rum, how ahead of the curve they've been on a lot of things. So maybe they could do it. But at the end of the day, I think the likeliest answer is just whatever Foursquare does next is going to have to be the thing to fill the void.
Yeah, I think to your point there that, Richard, Gail, Christian, and the others that work at Foursquare, they're kind of like the right size and shape for the rum enthusiast community to match that level, right? Of global rum enthusiast community is what I mean, in terms of like, how many bottles can you produce? What is the value behind what they're doing? What is the assurance that this is going to be a high quality product? The amount of stock to do that, but also slight derivations. All of that, I think, is just kind of they're in the sweet spot. And maybe it's partly that sweet spot is fading for whatever reason and why they're shifting focus. It's possible.
Yeah.
I think you have some interesting points there with some of those that you went over. I think probably the most is maybe Guyana, DDL, St. Lucia distillers, and those I could see something. Another one that might be interesting here, but to what you said about not having there really needs to be that somebody that brings this together in the vision, and I don't think, to my knowledge, they have this person right now. I may be wrong, because I think he left, and that is Binley. I think Binley could have enough stock and do something like this, but they would have to have a Steve McGarry who understands it and could control it and do something like that. I think they could. And maybe I'm wrong too in terms of their stock levels, but
I was going to say, I think the other thing is tough is like to get stores and distributors behind like wanting to put stuff out like that. You have to have a lot of like recognition, and like your brand
but
has to be.
Foursquare wasn't always Foursquare.
It wasn't always Foursquare, but they built it up over time,
They did.
So, and they also, it's a Barbados rum, which
That's
Barbados
fair.
is
Well
associated.
known.
I think
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
someone like Australia, it's cool to rum enthusiasts, but it's kind
Yeah.
of like a head scratcher for the. So I'm
Yeah.
not saying they can't do it, but I think
Yeah.
it would be a long road to kind of get there. I think.
Yeah. And one last one would be, do we think maybe Thailand? Because I think there might be something there in terms of the similarness in profile and ability to do different things with casks that could give you slight derivations like we see with the Foursquare ECS line. That might be interesting. I know Valier is now doing the 15-year Shikara, so now they have the 12 and the 15. But I think it's lacking that person if it's not Lamason and Valier who think of it. You have the Flag series also, which is kind of a different thing, but
Yeah.
starting to get into an interesting place of its own. But yeah, that would be the only other one I could really think of.
Well, we will eagerly watch what's coming next from Foursquare and hopefully continue to talk about it throughout the year on the show. All right,
Yeah.
that was my first question. What do you have? You have a question for us, or do you have a prediction?
I think this is a prediction.
Okay.
And I'm going to go with the first one in my prediction. So, I have a theme, Will. I always have to have a theme.
Always got to have a theme.
And the theme I have this year, and it'll reveal itself over time, but it has to do with under, and
Under.
Yeah,
That sounds ominous.
going with the under, or going under, you might say. I'll start
Yikes.
we talked about my Canes are the underdog right now, which we
Yeah.
talked about in earlier, and I think in some ways rum is also an underdog.
Oh, for sure.
And yeah, I mean, you and I definitely both think that, right? But
Yeah.
there's a lot of other reasons out there I think other people would agree. Also, I will say before I give you this data is coming from Park Street Imports.
Okay.
And I don't have any way to really validate or verify any of this, and it's only a single source,
Okay.
which gives me a little cause for pause. I was able to look it up and find a little bit more, and it seems to be in line with this. But I will openly ask anyone who also has additional information on this, if you could point us in the right direction, I think, and validate this would be interesting. So their data is kind of showing from 2023 because it lags a full year behind. So from the full year of 2023, well, 2 years actually, I guess is what this is. And they just updated the 2024 statistics, and this is what I'm pulling from. All whiskey together, this is bourbon, scotch, everything, roughly 24% of the market.
Okay.
Vodka, just under 23% of the market.
Interesting.
Tequila and mezcal together, so let's specify tequila and mezcal together, 10% of the market.
Okay.
And then rum at 8% of the market in fourth. So getting to my prediction, my first prediction for 2026 is that we are going to continue to see a marked contraction in overall sales of spirits across the board,
Yeah.
including the overall categories as well as special limited types of releases in the US.
Yeah.
But, and this is a big but, Will, my prediction is that rum is going to buck that trend.
Okay.
And will either maintain where they are or even maybe a slight growth comparatively to those other spirit categories.
You're saying
and
on the high end or total?
Total. I'm saying
Okay.
total rum. So I think rum gains ground in 2026. Now, we won't know this for a long time, right? Unfortunately. But even let's say I think it's already gaining ground, and the numbers that would come out around December of this year should be for 2025. And I think we can look at those. And I feel like I'm going to predict that rum is going to do better than that 8%. I don't know if it's going to do enough to overtake tequila and mezcal and go slip into third, or what happens with the rest of those. But I feel like, and let me give you the reasons really quickly. I feel like rum is already underrated. It is already underappreciated, underrepresented, but that kind of almost works in its favor and keeps it insulated from what I see as other spirits being over-indexed and overpriced and all of these things. So you think of a time, Will, like Prohibition, right? What happened with rum then? Rum found a way, right? You had rum runners and you had all these other things. And I really feel like rum finds a way, if we see tougher times overall in alcohol and spirit sales, that rum will be able to make it through.
Rum sales in the U.S. exploded during World War II as well.
Yeah.
It got
Yeah.
hugely popular. Okay. So this is a prediction then.
It is a prediction.
Yeah. Okay. So this is interesting because it dovetails with one of my questions.
Okay.
And I think I see rum on the higher end. So the stuff that we like, I could see that continuing to grow, that
The
little
premium.
slice, that little
Yeah.
slice of the
Mm-hmm.
market that is
Mm-hmm.
the premium stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think as a whole category, I would be surprised if it grew because it seems like the entire spirits industry is kind of contracting right now. And that tiny slice that is the stuff that we like is it's a tiny slice. So even if that goes up a lot, I'm gonna guess it doesn't make up the ground that the cheaper, bottom shelf type stuff that makes up the bulk of sales. I don't see that stuff growing because there's just so many kind of macro trends working against spirits right now
Mm-hmm.
that I would be surprised.
Well, I mean, to counterbalance that, you do have, and this is still a small slice that we're talking about here, but you do have things like Banter, Holmes Keys, series for cocktail blends that are happening, and I think you're going to see more of these high premium companies start to put out these value based products more than we've seen in the past. Whether that ultimately translates to what we're talking about, I don't know. I also think that globally, since rum is produced everywhere, it also helps maintain a little bit more of a guard against some of that stuff. The U.S. is a different story, right, in terms of sales, but that I feel like so if you have one area that might be going through a little tougher times than others, sometimes another place that makes rum is doing a little bit better, and it counterbalances that. So I
From
think
a
that there's
production standpoint, yeah.
correct. So I think there's a lot of positives that go in rum's favor when you have a market contraction like this.
Well, I'll bring up my question because I think it kind of
Okay.
allows us to continue this conversation, which it is should bourbon's downturn down or under, like you were saying, I used the word
Mm-hmm.
downturn,
Mm-hmm.
should it worry rum enthusiasts? And a few weeks back, I texted you an article from the New York Times, which you had already read. It
Yeah.
was an article by Clay Risen that was about Jim Beam announcing that they're pausing production at their flagship distillery for the entirety of 2026. And I'll just read kind of the opening line, describe this as a stunning move that underlines the immense challenges facing the American whiskey industry after more than 2 decades of rapid growth. So a few notes. This isn't the only Jim Beam distillery, but it does produce about a third of their annual output, which is 26.5 million gallons. So like this isn't a small thing. This is like a pretty
Yeah.
shocking thing,
It's
even
huge.
to people in the whiskey industry.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
On top of this, the article pointed out Diageo paused production at the distillery that produces George Dickel here in Tennessee in
Mm-hmm.
September. Brown Forman, which makes Jack Daniels and Old Forester, among other things, I'm sure, laid off 12% of employees due to declining demand in 2025. So, like, American whiskey is really seeing contraction for the first time in a long time. I think the article
Mm-hmm.
said it went from it's like 1.2 billion in sales in 2004 to like 5 times that in 2024 2025. So
Yeah.
it's been this huge growth and now like big contraction, and I think it has to be somewhat surprising if you're seeing a producer as large as Jim Beam just being like, we're shutting down production at our flagship distillery for an entire year. Like,
Yeah.
seems like a bit of a surprise. So I guess I read that and I just question, my first thought is always, does this mean anything for rum? Obviously, I think the whiskey industry is facing a lot of the same macro industry trends
Mm-hmm.
that rum is as well. And the article kind of theorized all the possible factors that go into this. There was a production boom during the pandemic that's somewhat correcting itself now. Like, but
Right.
spirit sales across the board like really went up during the pandemic, and they've been going down. Tariffs are limiting growth in export markets for American whiskey producers. They've been kind
Right.
of eyeing Southeast Asia and places like that as places to
Mm-hmm.
expand into. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the
Mm-hmm.
tariffs have really kind of scared that away. There's been a big Canadian backlash to
Yep.
tariffs. That probably wasn't helped by posturing of like, oh, Canada might be the next state or whatever. That's really like turned a lot of Canadians against consuming American products, and whiskey being chief among those. So they're bringing less in. There's less appetite for it. Then you have like Gen Z just drinking less, way
Yep.
less across the board. And then the other trend of that we already spoke about, which people are drinking less, but when they do drink, they're drinking higher end stuff. And Jim Beam makes a lot of cheap whiskey. So not to say they don't make any high end whiskey, but like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
the majority of I guess what they produce at that facility is the white label stuff that you're going to see low on the shelves in your store. So
Right.
I think there's some stuff in there that is unique to whiskey. Like I think American whiskey in particular, like you said, it's rum is this global category, right? This is whiskey from one country right now that we're talking about, and Scotch may be facing some of the same things. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But tariff policy is really going to affect this all over the world in a big way. And then you also have, just kind of the production boom and stuff. I'm sure that I think rum production probably scaled during the pandemic as well, but probably not to the extent that whiskey did.
I agree.
So anyway, I think there's some unique factors here, but I think my kind of takeaway from this is I feel like we will see rum as a category contract. And I do think it's going to be challenging times for a lot of not only the distilleries that we love, but the independent bottlers that we like as well. That's a really hard business. The margins can be thin. However, I do think that we could still see enthusiast growth for those products in the US. So I don't think this is like apocalypse for rum and, expect rum distilleries to start announcing shutdowns and stuff. But I do think like it could be similar to where like the bottom end stuff takes a little bit of a decline.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot there. Let me start quickly with my thoughts on whiskey and American whiskey.
Yeah.
I'm not as surprised. And I say that as someone who has seen many people, friends of mine, and, I definitely was involved in bourbon before rum, just get to a place of frustration with it. And it was absolutely a bubble. Tulip mania, if you've ever heard that reference.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that part definitely affected things, in addition to all of the other things you mentioned as well. And my question is almost more of, did they do this soon enough? Because I think there was a lot of impetus for them to make that decision, but it's such a radical decision that they held off. And I think you have so much whiskey already in a flooded market with a decreased demand that they are trying their best to not have it crash. And so I'm not really as surprised as other people to see this. In an odd way, they've mimicked their own production or any spirits production in terms of like, how you hear like yeast, when you get it inside a container, it eats up all the sugar and then it deflates because it ate up all its own sugar and now it has nothing left to eat. I feel like there's a comparison here to the market for whiskey and bourbon specifically, where I think they ate up all of the sugar and realized, oh shit, we need to slow down. But I'm not sure they did it fast enough.
Yeah.
So then the other question with it is, does it affect rum? Just all the other stuff I said in my prediction is I don't believe it affects rum in the same way comparatively. I kind of agree with you, Will, that there's going to be some contraction, right? It's natural because it's like a stock market. When you see these other big players contract, your natural instinct is to say, well, we may need to do this also. So that is a normal kind of thing with a global market and a U.S. market that you would likely see happen in my non-professional right thoughts and thinking. And then just following along with that is I think comparatively rum does better than other categories for all the reasons I said. So it may still contract, but comparatively to whiskey, vodka, tequila, others, it will gain ground is where I'm at.
I think the other question I have is, so many producers we talk to on the show talk about wanting to sort of woo whiskey consumers over to buying rum, right? And so my question is, if there's a big market correction in whiskey and those prices start to get less insane, and I don't know if that's a meaningful conclusion to take away from this article, but I'm just saying, if the industry as a whole is like going down, maybe some prices start to come down. Like, do those whiskey drinkers they're trying to woo not feel like they need to run away and find something else if they can start getting more of the products that they want at a more reasonable price than what they've been over the past 5 years or so or whatever. So
Yeah.
I have no idea what the answer to that is, but just something kind of kicking around in there.
Yeah, we're gonna come back to this. I've got something else that's related
All right.
later. So I'll move to my number two here, which is a question. Okay,
Okay.
so this one's a question, and it has to do with a specific aspect of rum that I think is underappreciated.
Okay. Under
So
again.
a very specific thing that is underappreciated, and we've discussed this a little bit, and that is ABV. So the question is, will we see more rum premium products starting to release and or at least gauge consumer interest in the 45 to 50% ABV range as opposed to full cask strength, often 57, 60 and 60 plus.
I love this
So,
question
yeah.
because it's a hope of mine. I've long been hoping for more and more products that are in that mid ABV sweet spot because I think that means cheaper, more widely available
Right.
products than the full cast strength ones that are still really flavorful but more affordable. And I've just kind of grown to more appreciate rums like that a lot more and spirits like that a lot more in general. So I'd love to see more products like that.
Yeah, I really looked at this one in an interesting way, and let me fill you in on some of it. So, we talked about the Foursquare ECS series, right? When that first came out, we probably remember 3 out of the first 4 of those
80
releases,
proof.
43% or less.
Yeah.
Yep. Premise, I think that was 2019, was 46%. Sagacity and
48.
Indelible, 48 and 46 respectively. And then I think from like 2022, 2023, they're all upwards of 57 or something like that. We've talked a bunch about John Barrett and Bristol Spirits and their philosophy on release strength, which for him is basically pretty much below 50%. Not all the time, because he has said there's some exceptions, but usually it's 50 and below. Hamden Distillery's first release back in roughly 2018, the 8-year, 46%.
Yep.
Okay. Now they had the OP offering, the
I think it was
proof as well.
43 actually, because I think it was 86 proof, wasn't it?
Maybe I really thought it was 46, but I could be you could be right there. We'll have to look that up in real time here. Worthy Park, their single estate release,
45.
45%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So from like 2019, 2020, 2021, those, and then all of a sudden it's like, boom, we've got all of these super cask strength, high ABV spirits. I'm not mad at that. So let me
No.
be clear. Not at all mad that we got a lot more of those. And I think that that's producers responding to the rum enthusiast community, who a lot of us asked for these things.
Yeah.
So just to be very clear, I'm not mad at those at all. But to your point, Will, what I think we are missing is that mid-range ABV section where we can have a product that we can have. It's almost like a different tool in the toolbox
Yeah.
of when you want to drink some rum, but you're not looking for a really high or intense experience with something. You want something that's maybe a little more chill, but it's still very sippable. It's still very flavorful. Or that sometimes it's just that the product is better at that ABV. And that's okay. But we have to be conscious as rum enthusiasts that we see a bottle and we say, 48% or 45%. I don't know if that's going to be worth my time.
Yeah, I agree completely with everything. This is not I'm sick of cast strength releases. Like I always am
Right.
going to want the cast strength releases, right? But one of the things that's the key for me here is the price point of these releases. And I know we've just got done talking about it in our end of the year episode. But to me, the platonic ideal of this rum right now that I'm looking for more of is Dourly's 14, which is around $50, 48% ABV.
Exactly.
And it doesn't, I'm not even saying it needs to be 14 years old because I feel like that kind of almost makes Dourly's 14 a unicorn to find something with like that true amount of tropical aging on it at that price. But
Right.
if we can get some more rums that are, and I'm not exclusively, but I think I'm mostly talking about aged rums when I talk about this, but that are in that 45 to 50% range and $50 or under, and bring enough complexity to where they're interesting, but also to where you can have them every day. You know, I'm not saying literally every day, but I'm just saying like more of
Yeah.
an everyday kind of sipper.
It's not a special occasion, and I didn't pay
Exactly.
$200 for this bottle, and sip it slowly type of thing. Yeah.
The kind of rum that you just always want to have a bottle of on
Yeah.
hand.
Yeah. An evergreen.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
I think people will hear this and will probably be like, "Oh, well, there's Appleton 12,
There is.
El Dorado 12, things like that." And it's like those products approach what I'm looking for, but they just fall short of like the amount of flavor and and depth that I'm looking for, and like intensity
Yeah.
of flavor. I want a little bit more.
Yeah, I just feel like we've been caught a little bit in our own trap as enthusiasts of like, we're going to look at a bottle and we want it to be as high strength as possible and highest ester possible and all of these type of things.
Yeah.
And there is a market for that and there is a space for that, but not by sacrificing the rest of the market that can bring these really fun things. So you have independent bottlers that might be coming out now and saying, I feel trapped that I have to release this at cask strength or else I won't get any attention. Right.
Yeah.
And I want it to be released at the strength that we've talked about this in the Spinnaker episode recently, where what is your perspective on it drinking at? And if your perspective is on it drinks best at 49 or 47 or 51, as opposed to the cast strength of whatever that was, that's what you bottle it at. So that's kind of where it's a tough one here. But I think we're both in a similar place and hoping to see what happens from here with it.
All right. I am going to go with. I didn't go into this expecting to talk about Foursquare so much, but I have. This is like a quick kind of fun one
Okay.
to just highlight what I think is gonna be one of the most anticipated releases of 2026. This is kind of a fill in the blank exercise for both of us,
Ooh, okay.
and I'm not sure if you've heard about this yet or not. You may have seen it, you may have not.
Okay.
The new edition of Probitas will be the most anticipated release since what?
Probitas #1. No.
Well, first of all, do you know what the new edition of Probitas is?
I haven't seen this, so fill me in. That's why I
Okay.
think of this. Yeah.
This is going to be great because you're going to see it for the first time, and I'm assuming a lot of people listening have not seen this yet either. So I'm just going to pull it up, and we can look at this together. This is a TTB label approval that came through in December. Okay, so this is the back label. You can see it looks like this is the front label. It looks just like the existing
different
label,
color, I think.
except
Yeah.
it's green. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the back label, you'll notice right here, anything look different to you?
Oh, wait. It's so there's no Hamden on it? There's
No.
no Jamaica?
No, that's not it. The thing on this part of the label that would be different is the ABV, 57% ABV.
Oh, okay. It says bottled there. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't remember. Was it 46?
It's
Probitas?
I think it's maybe 47, I think is.
Okay.
So significant bump in ABV, but then the key difference is when you read the description on the back label, which says Probitas rum is a blend of rums from the double retort pot stills of Foursquare in Barbados and Hamden in Jamaica,
Okay.
together with the rums from the coffee still of Foursquare. That's still the same so far.
Yeah.
Here's where it gets different. Following a centuries-old practice believed to be of West African origin, the rum is darkened by the addition of caramel color made from the heating of sugar at the Foursquare distillery. Note, no sweetness is added by this process. So I think what we have here, it's the Probitas Worthy Park 109.
Yeah.
Is kind of what we're looking at here. It's their version of that style of rum, which is essentially unaged rum, or maybe there's some slight age in Worthy Park 109. I always forget, but the color coming from that addition of caramel color, which there's a long line of rums being released like that. So when I first saw this, I was like, well, people are going to go crazy for this because Probitas is already this like beloved cocktail rum in the rum community, and I would say like to some extent the bar community. And so if you're giving this different version, like I immediately was like, oh well, have to try this. I mean, Worthy Park 109 is like one of my favorite cocktail rums, and so if you're giving me a rum in that style from producers like Foursquare and Hampton in the Probitas line, like that's pretty exciting.
So I'm really kind of a little bit taken aback by this one. My initial thoughts are like, I felt like Probitas was less of a brand and more of a specific bottling.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I
This,
think that's how it started out, and now this is an extension of it,
and I get that, right? But it's just kind of racking my head that there's going to be another Probitas.
Yeah,
on
I
the
really,
market.
I've thrown you for a loop. I could
Yeah.
see it in your face.
Because like I said, I felt like that was such a very specific thing that it was its own thing and would never have anything attached to it other than that. Responding to, I mean, I think if it's able to bring what the original Probitas did, see, it's already a problem branding now, how it played into the market, then it's going to be a huge success. And I think that seems like what they're going for. Part of me also feels like if this was sort of some pressure because the original Probitas did so well that they were like, we've got to do another one. And then just didn't have an idea until this one. And they're like, yeah, fuck it, let's do that. Right? That doesn't mean it's going to be bad. But I guess part of me is a little suspicious of like, they were just trying to find another Probitas way to do this.
Interesting. I wouldn't expect anything coming from Foursquare to ever be
or Hamden,
fuck it,
right.
we don't have an idea. Let's just put something together.
Any of the players there. But I'm just saying, like, there's a little market pressure when you have one single bottle of something that is doing so well and you feel like we need to do more with it, and maybe that's why it took this long.
Well, I was going to say, it's not like this happened,
Right.
it blew up the first year and they were like, let's put something else out. Like, it's been several years of Probitas kind of being a big deal. But anyway, so do you agree with me that this is going to be like really sought after in the rum enthusiast community and like a big deal release?
It has to be.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So with that in mind, what do you think is the last rum that will excite rum enthusiasts to as much of a degree as this one will?
Oh man, I mean the 8 Marks series.
Ooh, that's a good one. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, that caused that amount of buzz.
I think that's it. I mean, I was kind of immediately going to Worthy Park 109 because it's the like similar style of rum, but I don't think that had quite as much like. I think that was more big buzz in terms of like people tried it and were like, this is fucking fantastic, and it kind of took off from there.
It could be also the Hyester series from El Dorado.
Hyester blend,
something in that vein.
Yeah, good answers. Better than anything I came up with in my head. I was just sitting here like, I can't think of anything. But yeah,
it is unique though.
I think those are dead on.
Yeah, what you're pointing out is that it's a kind of a unique angle. Well, I won't say unique because Worthy Park 109 is a good cognate, but it's not something you see very often, right? A 2 distillery blend of this type of nature with the amount of intrigue plus quality, like we were talking about, we can expect high quality. It's going to translate into some buzz there.
We were both big Worthy Park 109 fans. Mm-hmm. Do you think it has any shot of topping Worthy Park 109 for you?
Yes. There's an unqualified yes there, but that's because it's just potential, right?
Yeah.
It's So would I be surprised if I still end up liking Worthy Park 109 a little more? No, because that's a great damn product. But given the provenance might be the right word there, but like the mystique behind the first Probitas, the people involved, you can't help but think like, okay, there's a possibility that this is as good or better than that product.
Yeah. I can't wait to AB them, and I hope this Probitas bottle has wide availability. So
that's another thing that would be great. Agreed.
We shall see.
What do you think the price is?
That's a good question. I would guess that it's probably like $5 more than Probitas.
It's got to be $10 more.
$10 more, but
it's got to be $10.
There's no age. It's just caramel,
but it's
just
darker,
and
people will pick it up for that don't know any better.
Yeah, I don't know. I just the Richard Seal factor of it all. I think I don't know. I feel like trying to like pass it off as premium because it's dark, you know? Um
I'm not saying he's doing that.
yeah, no,
I'm
I'm
just,
not trying to
yeah,
put words in your mouth.
yeah.
But yeah, I don't yeah, I mean maybe
It's
10 bucks.
57%, so it's a jump
That's
in
true.
ABV of
Okay,
10%.
I was neglecting the ABV. That is true. Okay, I think 5 to 10, somewhere in that range, I think is
Yeah.
probably
Well,
fair.
there's some unknowns also, right? Like we don't know any ages of the
The
blend or
blend
any of that
component. We
stuff.
don't know the blend component. Yeah.
Right, right. So that's a big piece. So maybe it is going to be positioned to be exactly the same price because of all the factors there, which actually I would love. I would love if it sits right next to the other Probotas at the exact same price point.
That would be interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess I forgot that there is some aged component in Probitas, isn't there? Because it does.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. My mind is still catching up to the new year. All right. Anyway, let's move on.
Okay.
What do you got?
My number three here is another prediction. So this is my second prediction, and I'm going off the word underutilized here.
Underutilized. Okay.
Underutilized. And the prediction is that there will be more than one non-standard bottle size released this year. And I'm talking about 500 milliliter bottles, 200, 250, 331, 350, 355, 475, or 570, which is all of these new TTB sizes that they're
Okay.
allowing. And I feel like this is the year where at least two people take advantage of that and come up with a different size bottle.
So are you
So
ruling out the 375s don't count?
no, they do not count.
Okay.
No, no. I mentioned I think all of them that I would count with this.
Okay.
There's also bigger sizes I think they expanded into. I'm not 100% sure about that, but
Like a
I guess
900
technically
milliliter or something.
no, I think it's more like 3 gallon or something.
Oh
Not
wow.
3 gallon, 3 liters. But I'm not really sure. I didn't
Okay.
do the research on whether those were already pre-allowed or whatever. But I know there was a lot that the TTB last year, and we talked a lot about it. Like, is all of a sudden like, yeah, these bottle sizes are fine,
Yeah.
and we haven't really seen anybody take advantage of those yet. There's been some discussion. We definitely heard some people say, "Ooh, 500 milliliters sounds like a cool bottle size," for multiple reasons. So, I think I'm saying this going with the theme of people being a little bit more discerning with purchases and monitoring spending, like we were talking about. We've talked about how 375 milliliters are very interesting. We've seen people do that, like us, Spinnaker Rum, raising glasses. And, I think this might be the year where the supplier market of glass is catching up to that TTB, kind of dropping those additional sizes and people starting to adopt it. I only said two and not more because I still feel like the cogs of the machinery at large here don't yet support a lot of different weird sizes yet, right? So, and we've seen some evidence of that with 375s and how the cases come together and some of that other things. So I think there are still some issues is not maybe the right word, but impedance to people doing this. But I think that those will start to break down.
Yeah, if not for the tariff situation last year, Rumcast Reserve may have been 500 milliliter bottles.
Yeah.
We were looking into that. Just the prices got a little crazy once that stuff started happening. So I'd love to see it. I'd love to see some more 500 milliliter. I think that's a really nice kind of sweet spot size in there. 375 is great, but sometimes there are some rums where I'm like, I wish I could get a little bit more.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'd love to see it. I think I would. I think you're going to be right on that one. I think you will.
I think it's an interesting thing because nobody wants to be that first one usually. It takes a special type of bottler or producer to say, you know what, screw it. We're just going to do this. We saw that with the 700, right, milliliter versus 750. And it kind of crept into the market and people were kind of hoping, I guess people didn't notice. With this one, you'll notice, right? So you got to make sure you're really bringing a perspective on it if you're going to use that size. But once somebody does it successfully, I think it takes off.
Speaking of when people do something successfully and then it takes off, I will get to my first prediction that I'm making on this episode, which is this is, I think, going to be the year of what I am calling us two high ester releases.
Oh,
So,
okay.
in the last year, we've had Papaline high ester.
Yep.
We've had El Dorado's high ester, two El Dorado high ester
Yeah.
blends. We just had Planerae's Hogo Monster
Mm-hmm.
come out as well. And there's others. MOBA the Sheldon has high ester on the
Yep.
label.
Yep.
This is a copycat industry, and I think the high profile nature of these releases in enthusiast circles, it's not like these have been the first ever releases to have high ester on the label, but I just think that there was a prominence of it in 2025, particularly that Papaline bottle and the El Dorado ones. Like, high ester is in the name. They really made the rounds in enthusiast circles. People really liked these rums. This is a copycat industry. I think it's going to lead to more and more distilleries, IBs probably too. And I think it might happen to the point that the term starts to get watered down even further than some may say it already is, to where it's like, well, does this even have any common meaning? Because if you taste Papaline high ester and you taste Eldorado's high ester blend, it's like, what's the
Yeah.
connection here?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Esters.
I, I think how we'll know whether this true is true or not. I think we're gonna see a few releases with high ester labeling that are somewhat eye roll inducing. Is how I'm gonna kind of position it. I think we're gonna see somewhere like you're trying to call this high ester. Really? Are you sure? That's what I think is gonna happen.
You're going to see like on the back of the bottle 59 Geherpelas and it's high esters.
So the year of us two high ester releases. We can do it too. It's high ester.
Yeah. I agree with this. Like I was making the point already about it being a copycat industry with relative to sizes of
Yeah.
bottles, that this is a similar type of thing. I see exactly what you're going for. I'm still somewhat resistant to it because I fall prey to this. I will say that when I see an ester number, it definitely raises my eyebrows. Right? I know a lot of people out there that are rum geeks like us. It's the same thing. But I also don't feel like that really translates into anything at the end of the day, whether or not it's a rum I'm going to enjoy or love. So part of me feels like I agree with this. I think the copycat industry is the right thing that you're saying. It's going to be more people doing that. Whether or not it makes rum better, I have a question on.
Oh, I don't think it makes rum better. I
Yeah.
was hoping from my tone you could tell that this is
Oh
really
yeah,
going to annoy me this year.
I did. I did.
Okay, yeah. I don't
Yeah.
think it's a good thing. No, I think it will be a thorn in the side of producers that like do true high ester rum production and are trying to put stuff out there that showcases that style of rum. So
Yeah.
hopefully it won't happen, but I just feel like it will.
Yeah. I unfortunately I share your guarded nature against it, and also feel like you're probably right. All right, on to my last one then. My number 4. It's a question, and this one's an interesting question. I feel like we'll have a lot of maybe not. Maybe we'll be in exactly the same place, but I feel like there might be some fireworks with this.
Okay.
And my thematic connection here is the word underground or underworld. I'm not really sure which one I like better for this. My underground here is specifically talking about what I'm kind of saying, the rum underground or the underworld of rum, if you want to put it that way, in a sense of being more hidden and secret, not negative or like, hell or
Okay.
anything like that.
It's not hell. Yeah.
Yeah. And the question is, will the rum enthusiast community be able to better bridge the gap between rum geeks and the rum mainstream? And,
Elaborate.
So, for as long as I've been into rum heavily, I feel like there's always been these kind of two coexisting worlds of rum. The rum mass market and the more superficial rum lovers, and then there's more of the rum purists and hardcore enthusiasts. And I know there is a spectrum. I get it. I know it's obviously not binary here, but I still kind of see it as two major encampments that don't cross very often. And more recently, I've been seeing what I perceive as a bit of a growing isolationism between rum enthusiasts and rum recreationalists, you might call them.
Recreationalist.
Yeah. With like the exception of maybe a few larger events here and there, that those two worlds are moving perhaps even further apart. Every now and again, you might have like a rum recreationalist or noob that comes into the circle, and God help them if they ask the wrong question, because a lot of folks seem like they just don't have the will or the time to explain anything, and some do. I have seen some that are very helpful and say, hey, here's a something to look into, but others you see this kind of like kind of approach, and I intensely dislike that.
Yeah.
It's too rare that I see or hear rum enthusiasts out there trying to actively be bringing people in to the hobby they love, and this is something I worry about, and I've worried about this for a little while now. There's even a contingency of people out there that are saying keep rum small. Right, they're happy with where it is, the market value. They don't want to have to compete anymore. They're good with being fourth place, right? Those type of people. And there's a contingency of enthusiasts out there that are willing to help and see it grow, but also very cautious in doing so. And then there's maybe what I might say me, which and others like me. My view is that if you're not growing, you're dying. And I'm still trying to get out there and feel like what I'm trying to do is bring new people in and make this something that I love and explain why I love it, highlight the challenges of rum, offer some rewards of being more educated on it and understanding of it. And, I love what we do, Will. I love that we help people create a tight-knit community of rum enthusiasts. I think there are other good content creators out there that are definitely needed, and we need those people. We need people who stick their necks out to produce and bring in great rums like Eric and Maura do with Holmes Key, Mike Streeter with Down Island, the Cape Perrys and the Nicholas Palazzis of the world. I want to see more people like John and Lori Shu out there, more Ryan Gilbertis lifting up great rum products that are not necessarily only the ones they've picked for their labels, but others that they truly believe in as well. I want to see more local rum events celebrating and highlighting what good rum is, because I think you have to meet people where they are and not just stay in your own circle. And educating and leading something out from people, really, that's what the word educating means, right? Educare is to lead out from, right? Not telling people you're doing something wrong. It's much more of how do you lead people to what you feel is a better answer or a better greener pasture, and that for them that they can enjoy that more. I want to see more people like Kevin McBrayer and Marshall Copeland, what they're doing in Texas. I want to see more from Joe Mortellini and Julian Barbosa and what they're doing in New York. More people like Jay Cocarulo and Neil Lindley in Florida. And there's a bunch of others that I could name out there that I feel like they're putting this out there. They're trying to get new people into rum, but it's not enough yet. So I know this is a bit of a rant, but I just really feel like we need more people who are willing to take some time and promote what they want to see out there and change hearts and minds at a local level, and then other than that. And I don't think we've seen that enough, and it kind of bothers me, I guess, if you couldn't tell. So
I love the passion, the impassioned speech.
Yeah.
You're like it's like you're in the huddle with the team right now, rallying everybody.
Hey, I mean, what better day, right? But so I don't know if you follow me with this, Will. I honestly don't know what your feelings are on it. But the question to come back to it is the rum enthusiast going to bridge the gap between rum geeks and the rum mainstream? Do they not care to do that? Is there any validity to what I'm saying in my perspective, or is there another way?
So I definitely don't think there's no validity to what you're saying. My reaction is I have two words of advice, and I say this tongue in cheek, but they are log off is my words of advice, because I think what you're saying is true, but I also think that you are over indexing on online interactions in the rum community. And you just listed off like all these people in all these communities that are like really promoting, like really welcoming and want to bring people in. And I feel like rum is a really welcoming community, and actually I think bridges that gap better than a lot of spirit categories do. But when you look at niche online communities for any kind of hobby or anything like that, or art form or whatever you want to call it, like the dynamics you see in rum communities, I do not, and I'm not saying you were saying this, but like I don't think they're unique to rum. I think this exists in like literally everything once it gets to a certain size of like, attracting enthusiasts. You have people who are kind of snobbish and get annoyed at, people, coming in and being excited about a product that they think isn't good, that kind of thing. So, to me, I feel like there's a lot of people in the rum community. And I'm not saying you weren't saying like there aren't lots of people. You acknowledged a lot of them, and there's many more beyond that too. But I just, when I look at the rum community, when I have interactions with the rum community, whether it's, our patrons on our happy hours, in our Discord, which is online, but when I go to rum events, when I go to rum bars, like there's so many people like doing great, amazing educational work, like trying to bring more people in, that yeah, my perspective is just different. I don't see as much of the negative, when I look at the rum community.
So I think you acknowledge what you're saying. First of all, the number one, I don't think rum is necessarily all that different from other niche communities. I grant you that. Number two is, yeah, online can be a sucky atmosphere where it can make somebody feel
Well,
really
and it's
jaded.
good. It gets worse by the year too.
Yeah,
So like
yeah, yeah.
that's actually not going to improve. It's never going to change.
Right.
So I wouldn't get your hopes up on that front.
I think it might also be somewhat regional. I live in South Florida, which is a huge destination for rum, and yet you get here and it's hard to find any stores that sell any rum that are really what we want to see on a store shelf. And that can be really tough. So I think there's some regionalness to it in terms of what you're saying about there's a lot of people down here that I see every day that, it can be difficult to do the work that you need to do to kind of lead people into different areas of understanding for rum. And I feel sometimes that it's hard, and I see those people out there. That's why I was trying to acknowledge them. And there, like you said, there are more. But I also feel like there's these other people who just they're content with where rum is, I guess, overall. And I guess that maybe is a goal of mine to get to. But I don't feel like we're there.
Well, I mean, I think you see this dynamic, or I see it as well when people talk about local restaurants in communities, and someone from out of town will be asking about where to go, and someone will say like, oh, this place is amazing, and someone will chime in and be like, shh, like don't ruin it, you don't
Right,
tell other
right.
people.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and I understand where those people are coming from, because like you want to continue to be able to like have access and like have convenience and enjoy the things that you enjoy, but at the same time, if you really like something, you want success for the people behind it too as well, right? So you want to recommend it to people. And so it's this delicate balance of like, I think most people in the rum enthusiast community, like it would be cool if the category got the recognition that, if it weren't perpetually underrated, basically. It would be nice to see it get the credit that it deserves. At the
Right.
same time, that can invite some really that can go south. We don't want rum to end up how bourbon has been the last few years,
Agreed.
right?
I
And
agree.
so I understand where people are coming from, where they're like, let's not ruin what we have going. Like we don't want to drive these prices up and everything. So we've talked about this before, but it's a delicate balance. I mean, I think fall closer to you on the spectrum of I want more appreciation for rum out there. I want the producers to get the recognition that they deserve. And I know that like higher prices are going to come with that. I'm willing to accept that to a degree. Hopefully, it doesn't get to just stupid territory where we, can no longer
Yeah.
get any of the stuff we love at
Well, it should
reasonable
be
prices.
it should be counterbalanced by a more successful industry brings with it more product offerings as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's like in an ideal world, the industry doesn't fuck over its biggest fans, but like, you know, that tends to happen pretty regularly across like a
Yeah.
wide spectrum of industries and product categories. So, yeah, I understand why people would be cautious
Yeah.
against that. So, yeah, I don't know. To me, I think if you're seeing, if every day you're seeing like a lot of online interaction of rum communities and stuff, I just don't think that stuff's ever going to get better. I think it's going to get worse. I think people are often the worst versions of themselves online. I think a lot of people who, do kind of just post the snarky comment or whatever to someone, some noob who asks, a question that's maybe a little annoying or whatever, or just a little ignorant, or they don't know what they're talking about. I think that same person, if like that person was over at their house and they were introducing them to rum, would probably be like way nicer and like way more patient and stuff. It's just, the internet just, it turns people into like I was saying, the worst versions of themselves a lot of the time.
It does.
So I don't think you should I don't think your expectations are realistic on that front.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think I specifically mentioned online.
You didn't. I'm kind of putting that on you.
Well, because there is some of it there, to be clear, but a lot of it is what I've even seen, sometimes in person. And I don't mean that I've seen people being total jerks to each other, but it's just like a willingness to engage with people who may not be at the same place you are within a hobby is something that I want to see more of. I feel like there's always going to be an inner circle, right? There's always going to be this, whatever you want to call it, niche of hardcore rum enthusiasts, and then there's everything else within the space. But I feel like our circle is so small comparatively to what it could be by just everybody doing a little bit more to bring people in to a more interesting kind of mix or blend. I think that's what I would hope for. And I think it would benefit us as rum geeks. I think it would benefit the rum industry overall. And I haven't seen that, and I was hoping to have seen more of it as we've talked about things and educated, doing our part in it, and other people have. Again, I don't want to wash away the efforts of people who have done it, but I haven't seen enough of it. So I'm just hoping that we can find people willing to do a little bit more and spread the good word, if you will.
Oh, well, I'll never argue against, getting more people like that. And it's also interesting because I think you're the optimist and I'm the pessimist between the two of us. And we're on like opposite impressions of this. Because I'm always looking and being like, wow, there's so many like amazing people in rum. And I know you think that. I'm not saying you're looking around being like, wow, there's like just shitty people over here or whatever. But I don't know. I think when you can like rattle off all those names like that, that felt like an impressive amount to me. It's like, oh, hell yeah. But yeah, sure. I'd love more people like that.
Well, and just other people who may not be the next of those people, but that are more interested in rum. I think part of this, Will, actually is going back to I did the recent talk on rum at a nerd night event here in Miami. So it was unrelated to rum in any other aspect, but they asked me to come speak on a topic, and I did. And it was about 80 to 100 people. And, you just, when you do stuff like that, number one, I would love to see more people do stuff in their local communities like that. Would be awesome. Number two is you recognize pretty quickly, gosh, there is a dearth of understanding amongst people. And we know this, again, it's why we started the podcast, right? But it can be disheartening in a certain way. But then my reaction is, well, we got to fight the good fight with it. And, as opposed to just saying, it is what it is. So, all right, I'm going to leave it there. I'll stop now. But Will, you have one more, I think.
No, that's all I've got.
Oh, all right, okay.
I'm gonna leave it at that for this year. I think we discussed a good amount of thought-provoking questions and made a few predictions along the way. But 2026, I think there's already, we talked about Probitas, that new Probitas. I think there's a lot of other really exciting releases coming around the bend that we'll be able to talk more about soon. So I'm really excited for what it brings and looking forward to going through it all with all of you listening and you at my side, John,
as ever.
Anything to add as we wrap up?
No, I do think I don't know if we want to discuss also our new format. We did that on the bonus episode.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
with everyone to talk a little bit about some adjustments we're making this year, and didn't mean to backload this at the end of the episode here.
I should have done it at the beginning, but that's okay. We'll do it here, and we can mention it again at the beginning of the next episode.
So with all of the different things, Will, you and I are doing, and this being our, I think, fifth or sixth year, I lose count to, of doing the podcast, what we've decided to do is we're going to do once a month main episodes on our main feed. And so instead of our traditional cycle of every 2 weeks, we're moving to the once a month. For you, those of you who are not yet part of our Patreon community and you want more, we are going to be doing a bonus episode every month as we have done prior. We will be doing monthly happy hours as well. But, we really feel like this format is going to allow us to keep the quality high. And Will, I know you have a lot of thoughts on it as well, so I'll toss it to you to talk a little bit more about the strategy.
Yeah, I think it's just we've been doing 2 episodes, an episode every other week essentially for over 5 years now. And we feel like maybe over the past year it got to a point where it was more like just doing it out of habit instead of like really being intentional about it. And we think that we can honestly, like, I think the show will be better by allowing us to put more time into each episode that goes out rather than just like always having to put something out there. Like John said, we'll continue doing more on our Patreon every month. And really, this is a commitment to a minimum of 1 episode a month. So by the end of the year, I would be pretty surprised if we only put out 12 episodes. I think there will be some months where we do put out multiple episodes on the main feed, but it's a minimum 1 episode commitment. And like I said, I'm really excited about this. I think the episodes that we do put out are going to be even better and some of our best work yet. And that's what gets us excited at the end of the day. It's not about the quantity, it's about the quality.
Agreed.
And so I'm excited about it. I hope it's not too disappointing for some people. I know, if you're a regular listener, it's nice to have the frequency. But like John said, on the Patreon side, we'll have more there. And I'm looking forward to it.
Yep.
All right. With all that said, we will be back in February with another episode for you. But until then, oh, wait, I should say, we want to know what your predictions or what questions you have for Rum in 2026. So be sure to send that to us. You can always reach us by email at host@rumcast.com. That's HOST@rumcast.com. Or you can find us on social media. John, where can they find us there?
At the Rumcast, all one word, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or Threads. We'll post all of our episode releases there, as well as any kind of events that we might be doing or other rum interested things. We try to keep up with that. So look for us there. Comment, do all the likey, subscribey things if you haven't already by now. If you've made it to this point in the episode, I'm willing to bet you might have. But if not, and you're not averse to social media, as we just discussed, at the Rumcast.
All right. Well, until next time, everyone. Cheers.
Cheers.